Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're doing another one of my mock drafts. If you guys haven't seen my work, I do all the pre-draft coverage for USA Today's hoopshype.com, and you guys can go check that out. Link in the description. Also, we've been doing draft coverage here for I think like 6 years now. Either way, as my voice kind of went out, I want to hear your thoughts down below. What do you guys expect from this draft? 106 early entries. We've already done, I think, coverage of over 50 prospects in this draft. And as we go through it, we know Cooper Flagg is going to more than likely be the number one pick. Dylan Harper will be the second one. I've said it before. I do believe Cooper Flagg is the safest player in the draft. However, and that he's going to be an all-star and great player, whatever you want to fill in the blanks. To me, though, one of the most exciting guys is Dylan Harper, who I think, and I've talked to multiple scouts and other people, is potentially the left-handed Cade Cunningham with his play style. And I think he's somebody that could end up shocking people with how good he is. And that there is a clear gap between the third, basically the first two players, and the rest of the draft. There's a gap, okay? And no offense to Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey has a good value, 6 foot. I know he's listed 6'10". I've heard he's probably 6'8.5", barefoot, shoes on. He's probably 6'9.5", 6'10", 7 foot wingspan. And I understand it. He's probably Michael Porter Jr. before the back injury with a bit more defense. It's worth it. I think coming here at fourth, VJ Edgecombe, who's literally Kassan Wallace meets Victor Oladipo, and I'm a big fan of his game. I think especially a team like the Pelicans would very much benefit from bringing in a guy like him to their team, as I really do think, their team with CJ McCollum and obviously DeJounte Murray recovering from the Achilles injury, it's going to be one that will want to bring in a player like that. Now we go over here to the Sixers, and I would not be surprised if they go Con Knipple right here. I think he's the most NBA ready guy, and if they do end up with the 5th pick right here, I've said this before, he's DeAndre Hunter with more shooting and a little bit less defense. I saw him play when Duke came to Miami, and I asked John Shire about him, and he just said coaching a guy like Con is just so easy because he's just bought in and he does what he wants. Next up, we have the Nets, and if they're right here, I think this is a team that would more than likely go best player available, and I think that's either Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, or Kasparis Yakachounis. And looking at this organization, I think they're going to go with Jeremiah Fears just because of the play style that Sean Marks likes, especially if they keep D'Lo. I think having Jeremiah Fears there as your developmental point guard or shooting guard could work out very well. Over here, this is where it becomes difficult to figure out who you're going to bring in if you're the Raptors. They have Vision 6'9" with Mr. Emmanuel Quickley and Emmanuel Quickley being the shortest guy, but RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and Jakob Poeltl potentially being like the 4 other dudes in that starting lineup. And I think you might see this team either they need help shooting, they need bench depth. They also kind of could move on from Mr. Jakob Poeltl. So there's so many options here. But I do think Trey Johnson gives them the but they drafted Jacoby Walter last year, and I don't think they want to bring in another chef into the kitchen. I think this early range, come on, we'll watch, might be where this would allow them to move off of Mr. Jakob Poeltl, while also the problem I don't take Derek Queen right here is the floor spacing, and come on, Mwach has been able to vertically space, while I think Derek Queen needs the ball a bit more in his hands than Mwach does, so he doesn't fit in what the Raptors want to do there. Over here, if I'm the Spurs, they want players who are going to help them win now. Jace Richardson is someone that I really like in theory on this team to be their backup point guard, or even this is where it becomes difficult. Or Liam McNeely could help them out. But because I think they need to get some help scoring off the bench, Trey Johnson comes in. I think he's a guy at the very least is going to be a bucket. Now you have the Rockets here. This is where I could see a guy like Derek Queen going, depending on how Jabari Smith's situation will play out. I think they have some interest there. Same thing with a guy maybe like I'm not as high as on Colin Murray Boyles as other people are. I think he's a first-round talent. I think you take him either end of the lottery if you're a playoff team that had a bad year, or you take him mid to late first if you're a playoff team, just because I think he could be the Ryan Dunn of this class, but I wouldn't take that lottery in my opinion. Now, right here, Rockets, the other guy that I think they could be interested in, if they do have faith in their front court and that they don't want to bring in more players, is a Jace Richardson, because they need some shooting depth. And this is where it becomes difficult for me to figure out who they want to bring in or who they expect to be able to fit their play style, as I think right here they're a team that is going to go with potentially either a big or a guard, and it depends on what they want. I think Newell, he's the guy who fits them perfect. He's a switch big. He can play next to Şengün or Jabari Smith, and I think in the long term that one could work out really well for them. Here, ma'am, I think this is where you go with potentially the guy who has the highest ceiling. I know Yagor Demon could be that guy, and I just think the problem there is that like they've already got their guard, and same thing with Kasparis Yakachunas. Derek Queen is where I think he would go here. They don't have a power forward. He could be a center or a power forward. He's more in a power forward's body, but he plays like a center. Now we go to the Mavs. And I mean, for me, I love how they have Theo Penson here, where Theo's just not on the team. One could say this is where Kasparis Yakachunas should go, as he's fallen. Liam McNeely gives him a floor spacer that they might want. He shot 36% on catch and shoots this year. Jace Richardson would give him an Eric Gordon type point guard, shooting guard, and I think that's where you're going to go because Kyrie's out, and Yakachunas I think is too risky. Jace gives you a guy who, it's not that he's risky, it's just they don't have time to wait for him to develop. I think Jace is going to be able to give you more playing time. Now here, I think I think Josh is staying, but I think Kobe could be on the way out. And if that's the case, I mean, also this is where a big could go, but I think we've taken all like the decent bigs that I would have taken at this range personally if I was the Bulls. And depending on what the franchise, I think having Kasparis Yakachunas here would allow you to figure out if he's a point guard or a shooting guard. And because Trey Jones and Javon, I know Javon has one more year, but I don't expect him to stay. And you have Lonzo Ball, Josh Giddey, Kobe. Maybe it's not right to take a guard. Do you guys think? Because I think if you bring in Kasparis, you can bring him on slowly and not be forced to have to play him immediately. And with the 12th pick, I just think another player, I mean, they could be the ones that take Noah right here. Man, I think they would be the ones that take Noah early, and just the athletic freak that he is. Like, don't get me wrong, like I like Noah. I just think for a guy who has a motor that never stops and guard multiple positions, he's just maybe not what I would be taking at that range, but he could be argued into being a guy that you should take. I think Thomas Sorber right here could be a solid backup big for an Atlanta team. However, Kobe hasn't been healthy. They could want to go backup point guard, or they might want to go a defensive player like Colin Murray Boyles. But I think you want to go with a guy that Mr. Quinn Snyder is going to want to play. And with Jalen Johnson being out, I think Liam McNeely falling here to them, catch and shoot guy who's not going to need the ball, I think that's what they're going to really value at this point. Here, I think with Mr. Thomas Sorber falling, he's perfect to be the backup big and even play alongside Mr. Victor Wembanyama. I think that fits them perfectly into what they're looking. Now we go into here. Danny Wolf does intrigue me as the potential Oklahoma City Thunder pick, as they would be a team who I think would value a guy like a Mr. Danny Wolf, point forward, kind of like a Kyle Anderson-esque player with a little bit less defense. But they're also the team that would look at Yagor Demon if he's fallen like this, or a Colin Murray Boyles, and be like, that's what we need. And to me, I know a center would be cool here, especially like with Chet, Isaiah, and Jalen Williams being your only real consistent. But I think a power forward's the other thing is that could really help them. And I think Colin Murray Boyles or Rasheer Fleming would fit their need. And this is where it comes in. I think defensively they're fine. I think they would like a guy like Rasheer who would be able to come in and give you the offense. But I'm going to go with Colin Murray Boyles because this would allow Sam Presti to move off of either Kenrick Williams or somebody else that they might salary-wise want to move from. Now, I think... Ooh, my light just turned off. Let me fix that, guys. And we're back. Here, I think this has got to be a Rasheer Fleming. You need shooting if you're the Orlando Magic. That's just straight up. Now, Neek Clifford, they need some wings. If you're the Timberwolves, you take that. Wizards, man, do you take... I think you take Yagor Demon, the highest ceiling guy. I love Kasparis Yakachunas, but I think guard-wise, all the teams that would have taken him would have taken somebody else, I think. The Brooklyn Nets are back here. I mean, this is a team that I think would take Kasparis at this point if he's still on the clock. So, because then they would have the ability to have both Fears and Kasparis, just try to see which one would work out. I think one of the guys that I've really liked the idea of going here is Ben Serif. I think he's a longer Vasilija Micic, and this is a team that Goran Dragic played very well on. They could run that like Dragic drag out play they used to run all the time. So I like that one. Over here, I think going and looking at who's available, the team that maybe would take Will Riley high could be the Utah Jazz, as I feel like they're the ones who like to swing on guys. And I think the biggest swing available right here is Will Riley, who's a swingman who could become like a combo guard in the mold of, I don't know if Karis LeVert's the right comparison, but somebody who could be helpful for them. Right here, if Danny Wolf is still on the clock, I feel like Quinn Snyder would look at Danny Wolf and be like, get me that man on this team. Over here, this is a guy that if Rasheer Fleming had been available, or if Thomas Sorber is available, I'm telling you right now, the Pacers will take him. But with both of those guys off the clock, this is where it becomes difficult, as they need a big, okay? And the bigs that would be available, I mean, John Berger is someone I really like, and I think he could climb up the first. And he kind of fits what they need. So I would go with him just because he's what they need at the time. Next up, Carter Bryant could be the Trey Murphy of this class. And I would take the ability. He also knows adult sign language. It's a very cool story. Hugo Gonzalez, or do you go with a point guard? And they also seem like a team that would take Nolan Traore at this point. Now you go back to the Nets. I think they're going to go with guys who are going to give them the most potential. And I think you're either going front court at this point, and with, or wing. I think Hugo Gonzalez might be like the highest potential player available at anything. He's kind of more of a gadget guy at this point. He's all in theory. Now, I think they would take a front court guy at this point. And my problem is that there isn't anybody who like screams like, oh, first round guy we should like take. I think, and like Yaxel is not someone that I think you would want to take this early. Alex is kind of like a Mason Plumlee big. I think he's a safe pick for them to take this late. He's young. Over here, I think they could go either point guard like a Walter Clayton if they believe they need someone, or they're going to go, I think, a Ryan Kalkbrenner who can give them a replacement at the center position. Right here, this is where I think a Walter Clayton Jr. goes. He could be the Patty Mills, Fred VanVleet of this draft class. Ooh, now we go back to the Janai Broom or Maxime Renaud are both guys I think they would be interested in. I think they would rather go with Maxime because he would be able to come in and do what Zubats does. Now, we're going to run through this a little bit quicker right here just because I know with taking up a lot of your time. And Janai Broom, just in case if Naz Reid goes, he's kind of like the bigger defensive version of Naz Reid. I think at this point, LeBaron Philon, who's kind of like a defensive version of Emmanuel Quickley body-wise, is someone that they would be interested in. If I'm the Hornets, Boogie Fland, I've said could be the Rob Dillingham of this year's draft class. And the next guy, if they were, going back to back right here, Noah Pinda could be someone that they like. And Noah is a guy who would go in the first round. I think there's multiple teams that might be interested in him. He's kind of a swing guy. Right here, Cam Jones gives them a 6'5" combo guard who can play both positions. Now, if we're looking just, Isaiah Evans would just give him some three-point shooting. And I don't think they would take all these picks. But here's Dink Pate, who's someone who's kind of like a bouncy, like not a Rodney Hood. I forget who I compared him to, a 6'8", like scoring guard that may or may not pan out. If you're here with the Pistons, the Pistons, they might need a backup point guard with, I think, Isaiah Evans. Give him some more shootings. This is one that I like right there. Tyrese Proctor would be someone that would be perfect for them. Over here, I mean, if Todd Pettiford stays, he's got this Dennis Schroeder game to him. Small forward, power forward. Miles Bird feels like a Wizards Thunder pick. Over here, Yaxel Lindenberg, if he's still in the draft, that would be a Warriors pick. Now you go to the Kings. The Kings need defense. And, dude, I think Cedric Coward, he plays kind of like Honkin Ipple. He could be the Jalen Wills of this draft class. Wells. Now, if we go back to, I think Hunter Salas would be a good pickup for them. Swingman could help them out. Fierro would be someone that they would be intrigued by his athleticism. I think right here, if we're looking at Drake Powell would be someone if I would take a swing at if I was the Bulls. This is straight shooting. They're going to go shooting all draft. Chaz Lanier, if he's available, I know he's a little undersized, but this guy's going to be a 40% shooter wherever he plays in the NBA. They're going to need a big and some shooting. To me, that's where it becomes a little bit hard, especially when you look at who's available. It's not like the cleanest crop of guys. I like Kobe Brea, who could be somebody that they're interested in, and I think that one's a good one. He's got really good shooting ability. Why does Sion James kind of seem like a guy that they would want, but also they would probably want some shooting because they were so like they probably want guys off. I would love Jameer Watkins on the Grizzlies. I think he fits them perfect. They're gonna need some shooting, so if we go back to like a Sion James or a Darian Williams, I think actually could be like combo guys that would help them. Not combo, it's swingman. Here, whoever's for CAA clearly is going to be what they want. But center, they did kind of have like hit a wall in terms of, especially when Mr. Samson Johnson is not bad. I saw him play at Portsmouth, but he's undersized. And right here, I'd actually go for a guy from Portsmouth, either Julian Reese or what's his name? Mr. Caden Shedrick, right? Shedrick, he's not bad. I think also another guy right here, Bogalajub, could be taken in at the end of the first. But again, if we're just looking at needs off of these teams, I think you gotta understand some of these guys are competing. I think Ethan Almansa, but he's priority. Would they take him? He'd be like an Al Horford big for them, which like isn't what they need, but he could be a developmental pick. Let's go Ethan Almansa. I'm not crazy about him, but he might be their developmental pick, and they might like that. Darian Williams, who could be like a Kenrick Williams type guy, could fit them there. Small forward, power forward. I think they would be a team that would take a flyer on Bogalajub Markovic, Bogey. I like him. over here, we've had them go. Obviously, they had Cooper Flagg with the first pick. Would they go Hanson Yang? I'm not a fan of his, and I've been told he might be older than you'd think. We had them go big already, so let's go some shooting with the Pacers right here. And I think that's where I look at the Pacers. I'm trying to, off the dome, remember who's in the draft right now. Dude, Michael Rusic, if he's there, he could be someone that, like, could be useful. Kind of a Dario Saric big. Darian Reed's another one who could be useful, but I don't think he entered the draft. I can't confirm that one off the dome. Ben Hensel is also probably going to go, to college and not the NBA. Jones, Adu. If they go two bigs, this is the other big that I would go. I love Johan Grulin, but he committed to Virginia, so I don't think. Jones, Adu is a good. I would not be surprised if they go two bigs, just trying to swing at something that they need. If I'm the Lakers, I think the Lakers obviously are going to probably go for the most ready player on here who can help them win right now, maybe even a point guard. Man, and this is where, like, once you get to the bottom of this draft, it really dries up quick. I think Mark Sears would be someone that they'd be interested in, defensive guy. This pick has been forfeited, so we're just going to go someone random that I think is not going to be drafted. Okay, 57th. The Grizzlies. I mean, Augustus got hurt, so Portsmouth during practice. And we had them go Jameer Watkins earlier. I don't think they would go Samson Johnson. And at the power forward position, there isn't really anyone that, like, screams my name. Small forward, we've looked at that too. I mean, they could be a team that just stashes somebody. I mean, Matthew Cleveland has some athleticism, 7-foot wingspan almost. People like that. St. Thomas was a real disappointment at Portsmouth, guys. Real disappointment. I was not impressed by him whatsoever. Now, at the end of this, we already had them go. You go with a backup big then. There's just none left. Like, let's go Rocco. If he stays in the draft, which I doubt he does, they could go there. And power forward or a shooting guard, point guard, there's just no one that I think is worth drafting. I mean, Augustus, they have a pass there going. And with the final pick, we had them go with a big. I think they would be the ones then to go. Maybe they could go draft and stash, but I think they would like a toolsy guy like Malik Lewis. But yep, that's it. That's our mock draft. What do you guys think? Nothing too crazy. I think we did a pretty solid job of, like, showing up. But yeah, ciao.